Hi, welcome to the coaching game. I am so excited tonight. I have been trying to get this lady on my show, I swear to God, for 10 years. And she finally said, okay, I'm going to do this show. So Jenny Burton is here tonight. Hey, Jenny, thank you so much for being on the show.
Laurie, I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for asking.
Well, I'm going to try to tell you a little bit. I asked her for some information, and she gave me a lot more than I thought. So I was just going to go, oh, Jenny Burton's a singer, and she's you know all this extra stuff. But boy, she's got a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna just tell you a little bit about her, and you'll see why I wanted to have her on the show. But she is a singer and she is a performer. And she's got a couple of gold records. She's got 10 dance singles. She's done I know the soundtrack, or she's sung on the soundtrack of White Nights, and she's got a recurring role. And oh my gosh, she's a pretty amazing person, and that's what kind of drew me to her in the first place. So I'm gonna tell you a story about how I found out about Jenny Burton, and then we're gonna lead into
Wow.
you can just sit there and look gorgeous. I'll be right back. There was something called the Jenny Burton experience, and I know what was called the experience because you can't explain it. It was just this amazing show with Jenny as a lead singer and some fantastic other people in the show. And it was any kind of music you wanted with a touch of spirituality. And I invited a friend who used to be the number two DJ in the United States. And says, I know Jenny Burton. She's from disco. I go, no, no, it's the wrong Jenny Burton. This one was spiritual. And sure enough, when we got to the venue, some guy had brought this was it a cassette tape? That's how long ago it was, and asked Jenny to sign it. And I'm going, what is that? And it was Jenny in disco. And I'm going, oh my God. So that's when I said, I gotta get to know this person better. So that is going to lead into my first question, because Jenny, how on earth did you get from disco to spiritual gospel, whatever the heck it is you do that's so encompassing? How did that happen?
Well, I think it's in the reverse because gospel music was always the forerunner. And I
Oh,
went from gospel music into all the other musics that I've done. And I eventually returned to gospel music in the form of inspirational music. And the way I got into disco music was that I had the opportunity to get a record deal at the time. And back then, getting a record deal was everything. And if you were so fortunate, you then had the machinery and the money behind you to have a shot at success. So disco was the music of the 80s. And as we approached the end of the 80s and disco was winding down, I had to make a decision to move on. So I then went and spent 3 years on Atlantic Records. Ahmet Erdogan was the president at the time, and Doug Morris was the CEO and chairman. And they both had a hand in my being an invited guest into both soundtracks of Harry Belafonte's Beach Street and the White Nights film that starred Mikhail Baryshnikov and Gregory Hines, and that's why I've got those two gold records
yeah.
on my wall. Atlantic Records really did not understand the plan we had for my career or my potential. So Peter Link, one of my producers, and I made a decision to create the Jenny Burton experience, which was a return to the music of my life.
Wow, that's great. And I know you mentioned Peter Link, and I always do this, and I call him just a genius because I think that's what he is. He's really
Yeah.
a musical, and I'm sure under his guidance, and I've seen so many things where you both collaborated, and it's just amazing. Um, it's kind of on the edge, and you're kind of on the edge now. We're going to talk about. I know you've got this musical podcast that is really fantastic, but you kind of stay on the edge there. How what kind of qualities and what kind of skills are keeping you on the edge? And isn't it scary there?
Yes. Uh, I think to stay on the cutting edge, you have to look at the present music on the radio and almost the life that's happening presently around you. And then you look forward to see how that may evolve. And for instance, pop music is a kind of copycat music until somebody comes along and further develops it, like Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Whitney Houston, the Beatles. I mean, I was thinking back in the day when they were getting ready to put music out, you knew that they'd already broken the mold and they were going to do it again, right?
Mhm.
Because they put their own special stamp on the music they were going to put in the world. And they offered us a whole new tapestry of sound and musical experience. And it also gave music a new direction to go in. So I just think that it's scary to be on the cutting edge because you're getting ready to say something maybe that's been said so differently, or something that hasn't been said
Mhm.
that somehow has just come into your mind. You know what I'm saying? And I think that I don't know if the music Peter and I did was revolution in itself, but we were certainly revolutionary. We both were at turning points in our careers, so we looked at what we could do with our combined talents. And as you and I know, that Peter is a cutting edge composer, lyricist, and record producer. He is the CEO and chairman of Watchfire Music, an online inspirational record company and music store. And his by the nature of his unique composing and writing and the way that I sing, which included gospel and every bit of music that I absorbed growing up, kind of put us on the edge. So then we made a decision to do the Jenny Burton experience at that point. And
Wow.
I think that Peter had worked overtime with the best studio singers in New York City, which you experienced when you came to the show. So we hired them to be the choir. And Peter also enjoyed and loved triple tracking vocals, the background vocals in the studio. So those 9 people that we brought in were able to help us recreate that harmony live, right? And the Jenny Burton experience, I think, was on the cutting edge because we were made a deliberate decision not to offer up religion, but inspiration, because neither one of us are interested in trying to convert somebody, but to inspire somebody, right? So we use the tools of original writing on topics that were relevant. And I think that the 9 amazing voices that we used and a little bit of the choreography helped to relay those messages. So we had looked at the present and then we looked forward to see what needed to be addressed. So I think when you're on the cutting edge, I think that sometimes by the nature of a person and the way they think, that makes what they bring into the world cutting edge stuff. And I don't know how you get orbed with that. I think some people come in with that as a purpose, actually, right? And you don't always necessarily know that. You grow into seeing the world differently. You go into your commentary on what's going on is different. And then if you have the ability to compose and write and sing, or write like you do when you do your reviews of things, the way you look at stuff, we've enjoyed when you review us simply because of how you write about it. So you're kind of on the cutting edge of what you do. And sometimes Peter will present a song or an idea. Last week he presented an idea, and I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Whoa!"
Mhm.
Okay, so with Rosemary and Thyme, which we'll get to, there are things in this story that has been told over time, Laurie, that
Yeah.
he and his partner have looked at differently, you know, and expressed differently and brought a modern day twist to it. So yes, it's scary to be there, but if that's in your nature, what else you gonna do?
Well, You can only be silent, and I'm so glad that you guys aren't, you know?
Right, right.
Yeah, it's mutual inspiration between you and I, and it always has been. So
Yeah.
that's, thank you much for those words. Let me, and I'm glad you kind of distinguish between as Bill Maher says, religiosity and inspiration. But how much does faith play a part in this? I think it's a Martin Luther King Jr. Quote. It says, "Faith is taking the next step, even though you can't see the staircase." What motivates you? I mean, what gets you the courage to do that? Is it just because you have to speak? You have to say what's on your mind and in your heart, or how does that work?
I think every artist chooses what it is they want to say. And this is our niche. I grew up in a lot of different kinds of churches, and in my last foster home, my mother used to say, "You can't have any more religion than you got good common sense." Right? And I do think that Peter comes from a very strong base of faith, and I couldn't help coming from that because I spent my entire life in church, right? And different kinds of churches, Baptist, holiness churches. I mean, there's fire and hell and brimstone, all the way to metaphysical, which was more comfortable for me, right? And so we have a sober and kind of down to earth approach to it. And to say, yes, I think that there is an impelling within us to say it our way. And hopefully it'll be more easy or consumed,
Mhm.
even if it is religion, okay,
Mhm.
and people consider it that, the way we spoon it up can be so much easier for people to swallow, because
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, you want people to have faith and they can choose what they have that in. But where are we in life without faith? Where are we in life if we leave that behind us and we never sing about it or write about it again? And write about it in a way that the millennial and then people coming behind them and the 90-year-old people that maybe have given up because church has become religiosity for them
Yeah.
and it's become old, and it's like, can't y'all do something else different? So
Mhm.
they've kind of said, you know what, I'm just going to have my own church at home. you know, we
Yeah.
had an atheist come to our church and say, "I'm an atheist, but I'll come back again and again." So that hopefully is a moment you have with somebody
Mm.
because you kept saying what you say the way you say it.
Beautiful. Yeah, and we're going to talk about doing some saying it in a different way, because that's certainly Rosemary and Time, which we're kind
Yes.
of doing a
Yeah.
little teaser for. But let me just say there's so many things that I could recommend. But I know you guys did something called Is Anybody Listening? And that was just that was not only inspiration, it was like solutions for the
Mhm.
problems of today and
Yes.
hope for the future. So if anybody can find that, check that out, because that's it. But let's talk. Well, I'm going to ask you one more question before we get into Rosemary and Time.
Okay.
Um, how difficult? We all have seen shows, and we all hear stories and about the taintedness of the music world and how it's a roughshod, dog eat dog, and sometimes dangerous area. How difficult is it to maintain that inspiration and that faith and that touch of spirituality? How difficult is that in such a? It's almost like you're challenging a world that's so contradicted to the message you want to send.
Well, if you get an opportunity to do your message, you know, with regard to what the world is, I think that one has to have their own practice, whatever that is, that keeps you close to what it is that is your faith, is your spiritual point, is your connection. I think that's your job. And that will allow you to go into to the world and let the world be what it is. And you just do your thing. And there was another saying that my mom said, you've got to be as wise as a serpent and calm as a dove. So I think if you have a practice, I find when I meditate that it puts my brain on different burners. I don't, my ego is not so much at work. I can sit back and look at the whole picture. And then I can figure things out for myself, how I want to negotiate the world out there, how much of it I want to get involved with, what deals do I want to take, and who with. And so you always also have to create your own court, so to speak, where you've got people in that court that are telling you the real deal, right? So
Yeah.
that you can stay with your feet on the ground, because the record business will pick you up, throw you up into the air, let you fall down, chew you up, spew you out, and next, right?
That's what I was talking about. Yeah, that's
Yes,
how we see the
right,
record world. Yeah.
right.
But
So,
you guys have maintained your integrity, it seems.
well, we have our own little road we're on, Laurie. We have Peter created Watch for Our Music, so we've got our own little record label, right? We're not trying, there is no record business as we knew it. There are no longer those big record companies, so people have gone off and created their own ways to make music and to get that music in the world, and they've created their own machinery. We have our own little machinery here, but if I haven't answered the question, I think it has a lot to do with your relationship with yourself and whatever you believe in, keeping you um, uh, focused and with your feet on the ground, because you can't believe everything in the record business. You can't even believe your own hype. You can't even get to the point where your head is so big that you think you're all that, because what you're doing is a gift you've been given to do,
Mm,
right? You didn't create that,
yeah.
right? You're not the author of it. You're just the user of it. And hopefully you get to do that. Hopefully, and you get to do it with a humanity, with an humbleness, and with an awareness of your responsibility and really what it is. It's just you coming into life at this time with this gift and doing it to the best of your ability. Hopefully, you can get a platform that allows you to do even better things as an artist and as a humanitarian,
Wow.
you know?
Great message. And there's a lot of us, and I speak for coaches, out there trying to, help people get that grounding and get that
Yeah.
focus, and get that belief in themselves. So hallelujah to you guys. All right.
Yeah.
We've done this. We've teased enough now. What the heck is so special? What is Rosemary in Time, and what's so special about it?
Well, Rosemary and Time is a podcast,
Mm.
right? And podcasts in themselves are not new. But what's special about Rosemary and Time is that it's a very cleverly done podcast musical. And we call it Theater of the Imagination, which I love. So you, the listener, can provide the sets, the costumes, and the looks on all the actors' faces if you listen, because after all, it's a podcast, right? You
Right.
can't see it. But if you listen, and I have to say listen again, because we're so used to watching things. If you listen, we promise that your imagination will fill in the blanks. Okay. It's a modern day Christmas story. It's a reimagining of the greatest story ever told in a podcast musical of 16 episodes. And we follow the storyline of the greatest story ever told to a T, except ours is set in 2022. The other part that was wonderful and that I don't listen to a lot and hadn't heard a lot over time was that it's bluegrass. The bass is bluegrass music, right? But the music style goes far beyond that. And what I found wonderful is that I loved the fiddles and the banjos. I loved the sound of those instruments, which is not in R&B music. It's not in pop music, ain't even in gospel music, right?
Right.
So the the entire cast was amazing, Laurie. And I got a chance to work with them, to schedule them, to be in studios with them when they were doing their work. And just to name a few, Steve Blanchard starred in Beauty and the Beast and was Sir Lancelot on Broadway. Broadway veteran Judy McLean um, did 4,000 performances of Mamma Mia on Broadway. Some of her other credits were Kiss of the Spider Woman, Aspects of Love, and chess. And then there's Julia Wade, who is a singer and actress, and she's toured internationally doing concerts, doing opera. She's done musical theater, including the Rome Opera and Carnegie Hall. And she's presently and is about to open in the San Jose Playhouse, at the San Jose Playhouse, doing the lead role of Sunday in the Park with George.
Mm.
And then I was invited in as a guest artist, and I voiced the character of Elvira, who is a waitress, but she is a terrible waitress, Laura. She's terrible, right? But she don't know she don't even know where the menus are. Okay, and our group visits her on their journey to where they're going, and I am in episode 11, which will air November 26th, and it will run forever, because that's the gift that podcasts keep on giving. Because wherever and whenever you tune in, it'll be there.
Wow.
Right?
I think you left out who's playing God, right?
All right. Well, who's playing God is Michael. Oh, you're right. You're right. Michael Tucker is
Mhm.
playing God, and he's wonderful. Wayne Duvall comes in and plays a couple of characters. Mr. Peter Link plays some delicious characters,
Yeah.
and I don't. The rest of the cast, they were recommended because Peter didn't know everybody. Terry Burrell came in from Dreamgirls. She had done Dreamgirls and many other wonderful women shows, and the cast was recommended in some instances, but to the T fit the roles that they came in to do, and they were lovely people, and they were really um, talented and capable people. So it just when we suddenly started to hear Rosemary and Thyme come to life off the pages, I mean, sometimes we were in tears in the studio, and especially for Peter, who wrote it and spent 2 years writing it, and so for him to suddenly have it live was pretty special.
I can imagine. So, why should, I mean, we all know the greatest story ever told. Why should we? Are you telling me that, okay, when you say everybody has a special message and they say it in a special way, why should we be listening to the greatest story ever told?
I'll tell you a little story, and this was unexpected, but one of my friends listened to it, and I've been asked to do some outreach for a Watchfire Music, and so I called her and I said, "What? How you feeling about, um, a Rosemary and Thyme?" And she said, "You know what? In the first episode or second episode, you deal with the concept of prayer." And she said, "I've had this concept in my mind that I had to kneel down and I had to do all of these formal things to pray." She said, "But Thyme says in Rosemary and Thyme that all she does is she walks into the meadow and she sits on a rock or a log and she prays. She ain't kneeling. She ain't got no prayer cloth." I'm not saying that that stuff isn't important and it's not significant to some people, but prayer is a simple thing. So my friend said, "You helped me understand
Hmm.
that it can be that simple."
Wow.
So along the ride of Rosemary and Thyme, there are little nuggets of things that I think will people will learn and they will experience because of this journey that these human beings take and how they handle it and how the writing handles it. So I think, yes, I think that why we should listen is because I think it does offer some beauty and it offers some newness to this story. It offers insight into the Joseph and Mary character and what they had to go through, to get to this wonderful birth that happens. And so I think it's entertaining. I think it'll be surprising. I think it'll be a ride that people will not be able to determine what it'll be before they sit down and listen to each episode. And
And
I
it
think,
brings it down to earth. It brings
yes,
us down to a level where, yeah, these are compadres. These are people that we could
yes.
get to know. We could sit down and have a Coca-Cola with them or whatever they have in there. How can we find it? How can people find that?
Well, all you have to do is to go to watchfiremusic.com, watchfiremusic.com, and then on the nav bar, it will say podcasts, because you get to make a choice. You click on podcast, that'll take you to the main podcast page where there will be series 1, 2, and 3. And the third series is Rosemary and Thyme. And you can click on that. It will take you to the Rosemary and Thyme podcast page. And so the most current episode is up. So all you have to do is scroll down and you can move up from the pilot through all the episodes up into the most current episode.
And is this slated to end on December 24th, the 16th, or
About a week before, I think. And I think Peter Watchfire Music is going to start putting out 2 a week so that we can make that deadline.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's www.watchfire, WATCHFIRE, music.com, or just
Yes.
music.com.
Yes.
And just start looking for podcasts, and you're gonna get distracted because there's a lot of stuff on that website that's really cool. But when you get to the podcast, scroll on down to find Rosemary and Thyme. I've listened to a couple episodes, and they're really special. So
Thank you.
trust us on that. All right, we got 2 minutes left. You believe
Okay.
that? I want to know what lessons have you learned from your music?
I think I've learned by doing the music. And when I came out of church and I started to be more professional, I ran into the fact that I needed to train more. I needed to develop my technique. One of the things that I learned is that singing is not just about my voice or about the voice or the person's voice. I learned that the difference between great singers and good singers is that great singers know how to get into the lyric. I learned that I work best in a combination of structure and freedom. And I learned that a strong structure allows for freedom. And if you have freedom without structure, you often have chaos. And one of the more important things that I learned, Laurie, was to listen.
Oh,
Was to
big
listen.
coaching lesson. Listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, so while we're listening to you, and you're listening to your inner being, it's so generous of you guys to share your gifts, and that's really what you've been doing for so long, and doing it so well. Let me just tell you who I'm talking to, because if you may notice at the bottom of the screen, she has Peter Link's name, who is good. He gets a lot of credit. But we're talking to the lovely Jenny Burton, Burton. And you can look her up, and you're going to be impressed with what you find. And you can look Peter up; you'll be impressed with what you find with
Absolutely.
him. We're all just impressed. But do check out watchfiremusic.com, and you will find everybody on there with lots and lots of talent. Jenny Burton, I can't believe we're finally doing this. I'm so excited that you finally said yes. So thank you so much for being on the coaching game. And I'll be looking forward to watching this show.
Laurie, before we go, can I just say thank you from myself and Julia and Peter and Watchfire Music for your continued support of us. And I also have to say that whenever we have a project and we want to bring it to you, we are as excited about how you're going to write about it as we are about your reviewing it. So from our hearts, I want to say thank you for that. And for the many years you've done that for us.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm thrilled whenever you tell me you're something new's coming out. It's like, yay, I can't wait. So we're both mutually impressed.
Yes. Thanks, Laurie.
Thank you, Jenny.